All right. Oh, wait a second. I did not set up this stuff. Sorry about this. I got some more setting up to do. There we go. Oh, I'm not even streaming through Ustream, am I? No, today I'm gonna stream on YouTube. My network connection is fragile as it is. Well, let's hope this works. Let's see how this works. Okay, so let's make all these things a bit bigger for you kind folks at home. And even this. And make sure everything works as it's supposed to. Let me know how the audio is. My microphone is getting cracklier and cracklier every month. And I can't believe how many years I have had this one now. All right, so you all hopefully have noticed that we've released a new feature, the Fog of War, which is an invention by Chameleon, but he kindly allowed me to implement it in my site on SudokuPad. So now we are going to look into making certain improvements. And there was one major fix that was required. There's two things, right? One is kind of functionally, and mark, so we're going to put a 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to export that. Right. And we're gonna use this as our test. Yeah, so currently the given digits act as light bulbs. So let me just see what work I have pending here. Because I was doing some experimentation. There was some nasty misnoming. So let me just see. Okay, so let's get rid of that. That doesn't work. Then I added a group around these, which isn't going to be helpful for now. And then this was just me experimenting with the colors. All right, so this should be back to just fixing a typo. So we're just going to do fog of war, fix typos. Because I put an R into fog of war. Org of war. Fork of war, perhaps. And I think this might be more appropriate. Alrighty. So let's have a look how we're going to get the givens down. So it shouldn't be too hard, because right now I think I'm manually, wherever I'm collecting digits, I'm manually actually including the givens. So probably all I have to do is find those places, such as here, and change all of those. And there seems to be only one. Okay, so if we change this to this, that might be all we need. Okay, so givens show above the fog, but don't reveal the fog, because givens are treated... Well, they're on a layer above the fog, right? And in fact, I'm not doing this manually. Let's have a quick look there. I wish I could put this on the left. Oh, I can't put it on the left side. Maybe we can do this. Just so we have more vertical space over here on the side. Oh, but does that appear on the stream? Yes, it does. Okay. So, wheat. And let's bring this down a little. Sometimes I forget where the range of my stream view is. So we have a console here. And now we're gonna find our layers. So the given layer is... It's already pretty high up, right? So it's with a pen, pencil mark canvas, and so on. So it's not interweaved with the overlays, and so it doesn't... So I think for now, this is what's going to happen. Hey, Dathan. So for now, the givens are going to appear above the fog, which makes them kind of special as a hint. So some setters might use them... Because you can kind of always replace givens with something else. You know, you can replace a given with a small thermal or whatever. Like there's all sorts of ways of not using givens. So the given appearing above the fog, I find almost appropriate, because then people can actually use it as a special kind of clue. If it's a problem, we'll have to reconsider. And then I think that's all I need for this micro update. So I think I'm gonna run that first. I'm gonna bump the patch number here. Actually, no, that should be a minor because it's not really a fix. It's actually a change of how it works. So that also means changing the patch back to 0, which I currently have to do manually. And I have never fixed that. 2189 dot. Yeah. So that's our new version now. Okay. We've got the typo fixed. So this would be now that. Move givens or givens don't light fog of war. And I think that's a good change. Until somebody makes a puzzle that requires that and then complains. Hey, Chameleon! How you doing? Alright, so let me just push that into beta quickly. So you guys can, there's no surprises. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is Mark Techfan helped me out with a bunch of code. So let's have a quick look at... So his version of colors above the fog looks like this. And if you compare it to my version of colors above fog, yeah, that is not good. So if I can make it look like his, that would be a good start. So let's have a look. It's got a couple of divs here. So cell colors of word, So this is in feature fog of war. So he's added a separate fog of war color layer above the grids. This is not the fog of war feature. So he did, let's see, if I do this. Oh yeah, this is separate. Let's just put that there, that there. Don't know, is that space? That used to be a weird HTML, XML compatibility thing. I don't think that's a thing anymore, right? Because we're not using IE's broken XML parser anymore. XML, HTML, space before closing slash. You thought about the highlighting over fog. Yeah, that's basically what I'm gonna work at now. Do you guys remember the spaces before the slash? I don't think we need those anymore, right? This was like a really old thing. And Netscape kind of broke on that. Supporting the screenshot of Netscape version. What's the answer? You were close. It is for Netscape 5. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to add those spaces in because that was for Netscape Navigator 4. And I need to disable notifications for that particular chat. Yeah. Because we had I had a reunion, a 20-year reunion from a university class recently, and we met at the local university, and people are coming from all around the world and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And some people were talking about what they're doing now, and they just said, next time maybe I'll get to talk about my stream. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, 3 children. You don't remember the browser wars of the late 90s? Ah. I built my first JavaScript website in 99 with a search engine and everything. The year Google was born. All right. Let me just follow this instruction manual by Mark. So this, where does this go? This goes... There was a const FOW cell. So we have these two, and then before the render cage, it's got a bunch of lines put in here with a silly pluses that I now have to manually remove. I don't know how, because he pasted it as a diff. All right. Great. So FOW changed. That'd be a let. Sorry, Mark. I'm gonna reformat everything. to be exactly according to my coding style, to keep my admittedly fragile sanity as much as I can. Right, what we got? So, if cell.layer equals undefined, cell.layer. So cell.layer, I guess, is something he's adding. Yes, in the end, because the trick is always to try not to touch the core engine as much as possible. So, ooh, and double quotes for strings. I don't like that at all. So, fog of war changed. True, true. App.render cells true. No, app.render cells true. No, fog of war changed. Okay, let me get my head around here. So he goes through the cells. All right, so let's do this. Don't do that. Let's do this. Right. Now this won't work because the layers aren't implemented. And then, so we actually, I don't think we need to loop through all the cells if we're just gonna look at these then. Because one second, if this if goes to there, else, okay, wait, if the cell is, okay, what's he doing? If the cell is under the fog of war and the layer is undefined, then it's unchanged, and then it becomes a fog of war layer. Okay, so because we were talking about it to render cell elements, right? Because basically there's two rendering modes. One is what happens at the beginning of the puzzle, which is basically all the puzzle features, and then the other render mode is what each cell does every time the cell gets updated. That includes givens, values, the pen tool. No, not the pen tool. So cell rendering is kind of a bit of a, yeah, because the pen tool doesn't get, no, wait. The pen tool goes through cell rendering, yes, because each pen element belongs to a cell, right? So there's elements that belong to a cell, basically, right? So it's kind of the user input mostly at the moment. And we figured that the cell rendered stuff is what needs to go above the fog of war, basically. So right now we're only applying it to the color layer, but in theory we could do it for all of the layers. One of the issues is obviously that if you can put 30 colors onto every cell, that's 81 cells, with 30 little polygons, each color has its own polygon, right? That's suddenly hundreds and hundreds of polygons you need to render, which can actually be an issue on like a phone, for example. Not so much for the rendering itself, but more like the DOM changes for updating so many elements and stuff like that, you know? That's a whole different story. In fact, Chameleon, Yura, you've done a better job of that because you actually split your puzzle out into separate SVG files for rendering. So it only updates one of those at a time, and each one of those is smaller. And that's probably something I'll have to do in the future. And in theory, you could actually break out every cell as a, you know, we could, because right now I have some divs here for the cells, which aren't actually used for anything except for layouting. But in theory, each of those could have an SVG inside and could actually handle its own sort of cell rendering. So every cell could be a small SVG, and then only one cell would get changed at a time, generally, unless, you know, or only a set of selected cells would get changed at any one time. So let's see what happens. Here, if the cell has a layer, we're also changing it, but we're setting the layer to undefined if the cell is not included. Okay, so what I don't like about it here is it's just checking if the cell has a layer or not which layer the cell is in. So I think this is what we actually want to change to specifically look only at the fog of war layer marker, right? So we need to update the core engine script now a little bit. So, and it's this line, right? And there's only one copy of this line, all right. So this is the color rendering. One day I'm going to go through and rename all of these. It's on my to-do list. Well, right now there's only one SVG, right? But having, for example, having one SVG for the puzzle as an image and then separate SVGs for the user input, the problem then is interleaving, right? If the user input right now has to be between two layers, so you could do an SVG per layer. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know. And I don't know if a div with multiple SVGs in it or one SVG with multiple groups in it, from a DOM perspective, isn't exactly the same. I don't know if that actually makes a difference, right? And it could be browser and device specific, so it might be actually, you know, change depending on how optimized a particular device is, right? All right, so let's have a quick look what this does. So target class name replace. This layer is undefined. So one thing we can do is we can get rid of the undefined checks by actually assigning a layer right away. So let's have a quick look here. Console.log. So this is going to happen 81 times per render pass, so a couple hundred times. So we don't want to have stack traces and stuff like this. But what we're going to do is we're going to have target here. And then we're going to have Mark's suggested alternate target here. And we probably also want to render prop and val. Ooh. Like this, these three elements. I did a terrible job at on performance. Positive, you could have tons of dumb elements, including MTG tags. Yeah. It's one of those things. Like I noticed it mostly because I was using my test device as a Nexus 6P. And I tested this, what's now released on that for the first time. I haven't tested on it in ages. And it was, as you were dragging the selection, it was actually lagging behind the cursor. So just updating the selection polygon caused, according to the profiler, caused some kind of relayouting, even though nothing moves. And I thought by having it as a transform, kind of out of the flow, it would be safe, right? I need to change it in a way that changing the SVG DOM. So in other words, I need something, a placeholder that doesn't change, and then have the SVG probably like absolute positioned or something, so it's out of the float, right? And it doesn't do a relayouting of the whole page. Anyway, luckily Nexus 6P is quite old now, so, and if it's a little sluggish on mobile, most people won't really, it won't be too bad. Okay, so let's have a look. So, okay, so this only is called for cells that actually have color in them, right? So let's see. So we have a cell here with color value 4, and wait, what's underneath here? Oh, that's my Twitter. Go away. With color value 4, and currently the target, which is the layer name, is cell colors, but it might change to this. Now, in the fog of war, should that not affect the layer here already? Let's see. Okay, so this checks if the layer has a thing. And then FOW cells here. FOW changed is true. So let's do a little log out here. We can do, just do this. Like that. Did my bond something buzz? Yeah, because my phone, I'm actually connected through my phone right now. By the way, let me know how the bandwidth is, because my phone, I'm connecting through my phone right now, and I have limited amount of band data. So I'm streaming through my data allowance right now, and it's not a contract, so I actually have to, I literally might have to go on stream to buy more data for my provider. Let's see how much we have left. So I started with 6.38 gigabytes. We're down to 5.85 gigabytes, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. I might have to buy more data in the middle of the stream. That'll be great. Because I got, like, my fiber connection is broken. I don't know what happened. Maybe the cable in the street got damaged or something. So they gave me a 4G modem, like with a SIM card in it that goes through, it's basically a glorified mobile phone. But the upstream is only 10 megabits. And on my phone, it's actually 40. So I'm using my phone at the moment. Yeah, because it's 40 megabits. It's insane. My fiber was only like 50 megabits upstream. So my phone upstream is basically as fast as my fiber. And I guess latency isn't a big deal on the live stream, you know. I tried playing a video game. It's pretty painful. All right, so this cell Then we want to output if we're as part of the fog of war cells. So this is just so we kind of have an iterator on which cell we're looking at. This is true, false, depending on if we're under the fog. And then we'll just output the cell.layer for now. And that's it, right? So this should output for each cell. So we have trues and falses and undefines. So now what I don't like is it's only looking at undefined. Because for example, if cell.layer is not equal to undefined. The thing is, this presupposes that cell.layer is only ever used for the fog of war layer. And I don't actually know how this would be general in the currently. And I don't also... Oh, this is a bit dangerous because I think this will rename the layer on the fly, but the class name is also used elsewhere. Maybe. Right? Alright, well, we'll just try it out. And then if it breaks elsewhere, that's exactly what we gotta do. We gotta look into it and fix it up. Let me just keep an eye on this shit. So. And then this just does a refresh of all of the cells. Now the question is, do we need to re-render all of them? I'm not sure we do. I think we can just re-render the affected cells. I think he didn't realize exactly how this works. And in fact, what we could do, because one of the things I actually wanted to do is these kinds of things, these properties on the cell themselves, are currently hard-coded, right? So any property a cell has, I needed to add a bunch of code here. And this is actually, one second, this is really hard to read. So for example, color has toggle and clear. Pencil mark has clear, you know. And this actually I wanted to make generic. So this should be pluggable, you know, kind of an entity component system, right? So we have a cell entity and then we have the components. And then something like the color tool can plug in a color. Now, we have issues with fog of war having to be aware, but it doesn't technically have to be aware of color. It just needs to be aware of relative layers. In theory, it should just say, hey, all of the cell renderings, and in fact, let's have a look. Cell highlights, grids, errors. So these are all things, everything with cell dash is currently rendered by the cell. So these should be at the bottom, basically, above the fog. And the only reason they're kind of handled differently is because some of them are under the overlay layer, right? So in theory, this kind of thing we could also do for these. And I don't know, and maybe Chameleon, maybe you know this. If I use to basically clone a subtree in the SVG, is it the same as having twice as many DOM elements? Or is this more efficient? Is this more like rendering a bitmap, you know? Because if it's having twice as many DOM elements, it would be better if I use the same technique we're implementing for the color here for all of the other ones as well. I think my uni colleagues are making fun of me. Colleagues are making fun of me. Ooh. Okay, echo. All right, so, one second, let me just have a, I'm befuddling myself. So the last thing I'm missing is the line on the render content, which I put in, pasted, but I didn't implement. Yeah. So if I take this off now, this should make this whole thing work. So I refresh this now. And I need to, yeah, let's do this. Instead of having this in here twice. Okay. So... Okay, so it doesn't... Oh, because I'm not doing this part. The re-rendering here. All right, so the idea would be we only re-render the cell that actually changes here. So app.render cells currently, I think... don't need that, don't need that. Up.render cells literally just loops through all the cells. And then just basically do a force draw on each cell. Now, render content itself, doesn't that have a force argument already? No, it doesn't. So we could actually force a specific cell to update only there. All right, so the one thing I don't like about this right now is it's generically treating layer as being a flag on the fog of war. Okay. So. This unsets it and this sets it. So basically, I should be able to do this. So we have this. We'll do const fog of war cells. So fog of war cells is in FOW. And then we have in FOW, which is this clause. And this equals undefined. Then this becomes true. Now, one of the problems we have here is that the layer needs to be always set. No, it only needs to be set it's undefined. So this can be inside here. And only needs to be set to undefined. Yeah, okay, so we can do this. If inner and equals undefined, then FW is changed. Or... So if this is true, things have changed. Oh, but this goes in the opposite direction. So we have an is changed is true according to this or that. Ah, okay. Let me think. All right, before I'm rewriting it like an idiot. FOW is changed. Then we can just say, so we can say let FOW changed equals false. So we can do, at least we can do it per cell. And then we can just do this. And here, what did we say? We do these two things. And render values. Do we have extra spaces here? That shouldn't be here. No. Render values, we're only looking at colors right now. We don't want to re-render the whole cell. So we can do... yeah, my phone is complaining because it's plugged in for the internet connection. But that also causes it to charge. It doesn't like that. All right. Render values dot or colors equals delete. And then cell dot render content. And that should re-render only the cells that actually change and not all of them. Okay. Now, what I don't like is it still doesn't hit the cells that were colored prior. It doesn't update them correctly. All right, first of all, we got to get rid of that logging because it's too spammy and it can't really handle it very well. So there's something that happens with when this update occurs. Jillian is pulling my leg. All right, so app is not defined. Right, I'm just gonna remove that. Okay. So, it's still doing that. So it's still treating these differently than those. Wait a second, why? That's a little strange, isn't it? We have these being drawn up there, but we also have these drawn down here. Oh, I'm an idiot. I thought I'd pulled them across. All right, let's start from a clear slate. So if I restart, and let's make sure every line goes more than cuts across the fog of war, right? Something like that, right? So we have a clear color here, under the. So the interesting thing is the uncovered cell is rendered correctly underneath the fog of war, which is exactly what I want, but the color is still bright, and I am not 100% certain. Oh, I think we can test that. If I do this, the problem is it doesn't change this thing here. So what happens if I then modify these cells? So for example, if I go here, oh, the selection is below the cell. That's not good. Because I disabled the fog of war. Okay. If I do this and then do this, it's still there. And if I do it here, it's also. So they all get rendered. Wait a second. Why do they all get rendered on the wrong side of things now? This dot layer is undefined. This dot layer. If I refresh it without the fog of war tool in place, it works correctly. And if I enable it, I don't know why that kind of changed on its own, and then change it back. Now it's broken. Okay. And we have spam already. It's been a while actually that I had YouTube spam. So, report first. And oh god, this is silly. I have to report them one at a time, and then I have to separately remove them. If I remove them accidentally first, I can't report them anymore, which is also a bit silly. Oh no, I can't remove them now. I don't know. Is it? Have they been removed from the chat after they've been reported? I used to get a lot more actually. Speaking of having made it. It'd be awesome if I could get above 500 today. I was at 494 earlier today. 496. Come on. Come on. I'm gonna promote to my university mates. All right. I don't know. The thing is, I think... Oh, wait. There they still are. Let me report those as well. Thanks, we received the report. Report. And they can just post a message, like 4 or 5 copies, and I have to report 4 or 5 separate things. All right, I've reported, I think, all of them now. And I never know if I'm supposed to delete the message first or report first. Anyway, okay, so step 1 is we have to actually remove this stuff and undo this stuff correctly when we're removing our fog of war, right? Because previously I just had to delete those clone layers. And that was easy. Now the problem is if I delete the layers now, I need to re-render in effect, you see it created additional ones, which is not good. So what we need to do is we need to re-render all the cells. We need to remove the layer. And we're gonna do this here. So app equals framework and puzzle equals app. And then we'll do puzzle.cells.map. And then we do a delete cell.layer. I think that's all we need to do. And then we can also just remove this thing, cell for, and I'm gonna reverse this because consistency and all that. In fact, how do we manage the amending of the class? Oh, it puts the layer at the end. Replace cell dash this dot layer. I think I can just do this, right? Just do this. And it's taking the first element. I have to be a bit careful because there's some weird classes. So is it gonna wait a second? Is it replacing cell color? No, it doesn't replace those. Oh, okay. We probably wanna do. This. Right? And reverse these to being fog of war that. So for now, if I enable fog of war, and refresh this whole thing, it should still work or blow up horribly. Fog of war dash cell dash color. Cell colors like this. All right. And that's this part. I ask still a question: why one will need to disable the fog of war in the settings? They won't. It's literally just the template for my plugin, so I'll probably remove it later on. This should be automatic, but I'm trying to also build a plugin API without sitting down and designing it properly up front. So it's kind of, I'll call it agile development. That's what I'm doing. Right. That's it. All right, and we have these fog of war, and then we also have fog of war dash cell dash colors. And I'm gonna regret making these all with a U in the future. All right, so if I now remove it, also it's good for testing, if it doesn't work. And, oh, I thought I had that. Did I put it in the wrong place? All right. And I guess we could render fog of war. Yeah, no, we don't need a separate remove fog of war thing. Now, if I make this bigger, I can do this, right? So. My God, did you see how long that took? Shush, my phone keeps buzzing. Silent. Let's hope that works. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but holy moly, does that take a while. Switching it off is much quicker. All right, so let's do this. Let's press this. Wait for it to actually do a thing. Come on. Come on. Okay, now it did the thing. Let's see what the profile looks like, because that was horrible. Hey, Mark! Cell colors, fog of war, opacity war, cell colors on line 27. Line 27. Oh. Cell colors, fog of war, opacity. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I shouldn't really use IDs for those things. Hey, they should be classes. Kind of shooting myself in the foot there. Let's have a look. Look at this mess. Holy moly. Holy moly. Render content. So render cells here is this expensive? Especially, this is, oh my god, 6 seconds it took. Holy moly. Can I hide some of these things? So you guys can see it. Can you see this properly on the stream? So this freezes up our whole system for 6 seconds. Well, the real painful thing is that most of the cells have nothing in them. So it's spending this much time on cells that don't actually do anything. And I'm wondering if the problem is that I'm erasing and adding in empty elements, basically, doing this stuff, right? Ah, wait a second. I'm an idiot. Yeah, because here I'm doing the whole redraw all the cells. Man, I thought redrawing 81 cells shouldn't take this long, but holy moly. No, wait a second. I'm not even redrawing them here. 1 second. This was when switching fog of war on. So off is fast. On takes a long time. And it's running render. Okay, let me try something here. So let's see how many times this gets executed. Right? And then I'm going to count how many times this gets executed. Now this, I don't think we need any more here. Right. So we're going to do this equals 0. And then this is going to be plus plus. FOW changed false. It's set to true in this circumstance and set to false to true under this circumstance. So we're setting it to true when we're enabling it, and we're setting it to true when we're disabling it. And then all we're doing is we're deleting this from the rendered values, and it should only re-render colors in theory. Oh my god, and I'm re-rendering all the cells before I re-render each individual cell. That'll probably do it. You saw that, guys? I'm smart. Alright. So... yeah, that's a little bit more reasonable. Okay, alright. Whew. Don't panic. It's good. It's okay. Got it. Alright, so we have this. We have that. We can enable it and disable it. There is a... oh yeah, the opacity. Okay, I was just going to say the colors are too bright. So the opacity is this element. Alright. Cell colors fog of war. I'm going to invert that. And you basically cloned this from this, right? Opacity. Cell colors opacity. Maybe not. We have cell color opacity. Tool color. Edit color. Cell colors. Okay, so this is the element that we're replicating. Yeah, so this really should be a class, so it can also apply to the other style. All right. So if I do this now, as you can see, the colors are above the grid. And in fact, you can see it better if I get rid of that again. Or they were above the grid. Weren't they above the grid? Yeah, you see they're above the grid right now. And I think we can actually change that. So right now, fog of war, cell colors. Wait a second, the grid looks like it's above the colors, and there's cell colors again. So cell colors exists more than once. Why is that? Why? Fog of War dash cell colors. Before cell colors. 1 second. Fog of War cell colors. Nope. No. I refresh this. The grid is above. Now, if I disable this, this does not get deleted. Why is that? Fog of War dash cell dash colors. Do we go with a bad spelling or do we change it to a good spelling? I think we have to go with a bad spelling if that's how it works, right? Currently. So it's an O. I don't know why that was a U. Oh, maybe you were working off a... Nope, nope. I just copied it badly. Oh, no, I didn't even copy it. Oh my god, what am I doing? Okay, so I only mistyped it there. All right, that's the bottom line. Oh, I'm getting cramped in my hand. 1 sec. Ooh. Ooh. All right, that was uncomfortable. Okay, so yeah, it's correct and it's removed and it's back in. Okay. Yeah, ultimately, this is the sort of thing that shouldn't be removed. But if I want to establish some kind of plugin API, I think it's useful if all the things could be removed cleanly. So this is more like, hey, I want to build an underlying API for future use, you know? Okay. And back. And... this doesn't look right. The colors got clipped. Whoops. You are absolutely right. I'm so sorry. I should not be using this at all. Sorry, James. That is absolutely my bad. I should not be doing that. I'm gonna use Chameleon's puzzle, if you don't mind, Chameleon. Thanks for noticing that. I believe is... it's this one, I believe. Oh man, I'm so sorry about that. By the way, his newsletter, Artisanal Sudoku, is absolutely fucking wonderful, and it's I play his puzzles there all the time, every week, religiously, because they're exactly right up my alley in terms of difficulty. All right. Yeah. All right. Here we go. This is Lumos Maxima by Chameleon. We will proceed with our testing here. All right. I'm gonna have to add some colors, obviously. So it should be green, and then this should be purple. Put a purple there as well, so we don't. And we can maybe try some of the new colors as well. See what that looks like. Something like that. All right. Now we want to make sure that removing this works. Ah, yeah. So right now, removing it does not redraw the elements. But if I refresh now, the colors are back. So currently removing... Now adding the fog redraws the colors, but removing the fog does not. I thought I had done something along those lines already. Thanks for stopping by, Chameleon. All right, so what we need to do is we need to delete the cell layer and then re-render the cells. And make sure rendered colors are... because I think this is what I'm using internally to ensure I don't re-render things that already exist. So let's see what happens. So if the current property is already correct, we don't return. Now the problem is, if I set it to undefined, is that going to work? Is that going to be a problem if the value is actually undefined? If I change it like, I don't think the value can ever get changed to undefined. I think when a color gets unset, it becomes an empty array. Let's have a quick look at the data. Puzzle.cells 0.colors. So it's an array. So it should never be undefined. And if I look at rendered values, yeah, so they should be empty strings. They should never become undefined. So by setting it to undefined, it should force a re-render. So this should do the trick. All right, let's try it. So if I now toggle this, show fog of war off. Yep, I think that's okay. And if I toggle back on, that's still okay. And if I toggle back off, that's okay. And I think this should update the structure of the SVG correctly. All right, now the ones, no, actually, I was gonna say the one disadvantage is that colors will still get rendered, but they will only get rendered once, right? They get just rendered either in this layer or the other one. Now, Mark, hey, Memrista, how are you doing? Mark, one of the things I'm wondering is, you've chosen a very generic layer label there, but what I'm tempted to do is to actually make it something very specific to Fog of War, because it's only being used here, and then the second time or the next time I need something similar to it, then I refactor it and change both colors to use the new feature, right? And the new thing to use the new feature. So instead of calling it layer, let's call it something that, looking at it from the outside, we know what's going on, right? So I'm almost tempted to just like tag the cell as being fogged, right? Now the other option, besides doing this, where we're looping through all the cells every time we're rendering the fog of war, because wait a second. So one of the things I'm wondering is, like, can we only re-render a specific cell when the fog of war changes and only look at the cells that actually change, right? And to do that, we need to basically have a before and after. We need to know which cells were in the fog of war before and which ones are in the fog of war afterwards. Yeah, something like that. Let me have a quick look. So, quick thing. So, render fog of war, when does it happen? So, render fog of war happens when we start up or whenever an action occurs that could modify the state of a cell. Value, clear, undo reader. And specifically the value of the cell, right? That's the only times we're actually re-rendering the fog of war. But we're currently not taking into consideration if the fog of war itself actually changes. In fact, we're not even remembering what the fog of war was from the previous round. So we have no way of knowing if the fog of war has changed, right? So I think what we should do is we should have an array of fog cells. Does that make sense to have a list of all the fogged cells and then manipulate that array? Or is that... I'm just trying to think, what is a quick way of determining if fog of war has indeed changed, right? I think the only way it changes is if the state of the board has changed. And by state, I mean very specifically this particular state in a particular way. So I'm thinking right now from the perspective of this feature, right, to say, okay, we have an action, because in theory what we could do is we could look at the action and say, okay, if the action is a value change on a cell, because right now we're just arbitrarily checking the whole board of what are the light bulbs, the light sources on the board. In fact, now that I'm saying it is, we don't need to track all the cells, we only need to track the lit cells, right? So what we can do is, we can do something like this. Lit cells is an empty array. And then when we're initializing it, the lit cells are set to the fog of war feature, which comes from, so lit cells, solution, FOW lamps. FOW lamps. Okay, so we have FOW lamps here. We have this. Then we have this.lit cells. Lit cells could definitely simplify the import. What do you mean by that? So the lamps here aren't, they're actually resolved. So what we actually want to look at are these. Because those are, if we do this, this is a string. What is this? Is this a string or an array? Ah, wait. What kind of thing is this? Is this a string or an array of strings? No, that's a string. Why am I doing it like this? I didn't realize I was doing that. I mean, I knew I was doing that somewhere for a purpose, but I didn't think this was the general thing that was available to us in here. So let's find... So we are turning that as a string. We don't actually want that, do we? Handle FOW feature. Because generally at this stage, I think I'm converting these to... Oh, because it is a RC reference. All right. Yeah. No, I'm just thinking. So the entire state of the fog is defined by lit cells. And if we sort the lit cells, we also have a unique key for the fog, right? So we can basically... can calculate the lit cells. So we have all cells here. And then FOW cells are... One sec. Let me just... FOW cells are a list of cells, right? That are referenced... Are these fogged cells or lit cells? Fog of war cells. So FOW cells, we're calculating... Well, okay, now I'm with you. Fog of war cells is what we're using to generate the polygon, right? So these are all the fogged cells. And lit cells are not just the lamps, but get lit cells. Here we go. That's the thing I was missing. Lit cells aren't just the lamps. And I'm confusing myself because I have these lit cells and the this.lit cells object, right? So if we're looking at the lit cells, yes, exactly. This is what I was looking for. Sorry about that. All right, so these are all the cells that are lit. So we have 2 lamps, but that gets us 18 lit cells. Now, we don't actually need all the lit cells. We need all the, de facto lamps, right? Now, in this case, let's just, I think one of these is 1 or 2. So this is a 1, right? Excuse me. So now we have 2 lamps and we have all these lit cells, but we have de facto lamps, which are the initial lamps plus what this thing outputs, right? So let's call them lamp cells for now. And I'm just going to output these here. And I'm going to basically change the internal structure of what data we're looking at. So we have now 1 lamp cell, but in reality, we're going to join this together with the lit cells. or with the FOW lamps. And the thing we're looking at are the FOW lamps. Now, one issue I have is right now is a little bit of a conflict of formats, right? Because we don't actually, in this case, do we care if there's duplicates? We kind of do if we want to track state with it, because the idea is you could place a digit on a light bulb and then you might get a duplicate in it. And the question is, do I want to remove it? I probably do, right? So, basically we want to take these. So we have lamp cells, lamp start, and lamp start is gonna be this, split by the commas, right? So we have lamp start 2 plus 1 lamp cell, and now these are all in the same format. So then we can do this on cat with these guys. So now lamp cells should be 3. And then we want to sort them for purposes of making them unique, creating a unique normalized state. And then we want to uniqueify them by turning them into a set. And that will now give us a unique minimal signature of the current fog of war. Now there are, if once all the cells are filled in, the fog of war might not actually change as you're changing the lamp cells, right? But that's okay. I mean, the alternative is to have a larger array that just includes all the fogged cells. And I'm trying to think, actually, because I'm trying to minimize the data, but I mean, it's 81 cells. It's a limited amount of string data that we have to deal with. This data might change when the fog of war doesn't change. So actually, we want the full fog of war because that data only changes when the fog actually changes, right? So we actually want to transform this. So we have these 3 lamp cells, and we want to run them through the get lit cells thing, right? So we're gonna do something like this. Let lamp cells equals, and then we don't need to uniqueify them at this point, right? Yeah, no, then we don't need to uniqueify them at all. And we probably don't want to sort them yet either. So we can do this and concat that with the puzzle.cells and come down to here. All right. Okay, sorry if this is a little confusing, but if it's hard to do, it should be hard to understand. Thanks for stopping by, Dathan. Appreciate it. All right, so now this gives us the lamp cells. And now if I turn the lamp cells into the lit cells, which are these guys up here currently, but these don't actually include the initial lamps, I think. Lit cells, right? And if I go from lamp cells to lit lamp cells, lit something like that, right? So we now want to take the lamp cells, we want to parse them, right? We want to parse them. So we're going to join them into a singular string, which the parser will then immediately split up again. So this is all a little bit nasty. Oh, come on. And then This will get us a resolved array. Like this, yes. And then we're going to run them through get lit cells, which will expand them basically into a 3x3 shrine lit area on the floor. And this is our lit cells array. And now we want to do the unification, all that stuff. So I'm kind of doing this with extra steps. Let's see. The only difference really is this is the same. FOW lamps are here. Yeah, okay, all right. And then lit cells is what goes in the fog of war? No. Well, kind of, yes. All right, so lit cells is really that. The only difference being puzzle, parcels. So the difference here being is that they'll be in order and unified, because FOW cells is just converting them to the cells, you know. So if we... Do we need to sort them here? I don't think so. I think get lit cells is already generating a set here. The one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't sort them. So if I sort them, then we're done, basically. So if I do sort here, then lit cells is basically what we want. And then we can create a sort of signature by just joining them back into a string. All right. And then the rest down here doesn't actually concern us. All right, let's get that down here. So, grand scheme of things, I didn't actually do much here. I just refamiliarized myself with what was already happening. And lit cells here probably should be a string then. And then we can say if new or let lit cells sig equals lit cells dot join. That's basically our little signature here. Okay. Now, the point being, if I put a 1 here, I can check if they're the same, right? So I can say equals lit cell sig equals lit cell sig, and then for now actually just assign it. And now we can actually determine if something has changed, right? So deleting this shouldn't change anything. Well, because it wasn't set prior. It does change something. What does it change? Oh no, it doesn't change it because it's the same. But if I put a 1 here, false. False, false. Now if I put a 2 here, it should be true, which means it's the same and nothing has changed. Okay. All right, long story short, we now have a way of actually knowing if actually anything changed, and you know, we can actually exit out early. So we can say, at this point, we can just skip out. If equals return. Boom. Now, this might fail us initially, for example. Oh, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. We just might have to initialize or deinitialize this accurately, right? So when we're removing everything, this should be undefined. Should go back to here. And when we're initializing everything, this should also be undefined, I think. So let's see. I put a 1 here, and then I remove this, put it back in. That works. Now remove the 1. Do this and this. That seems to work as well. Okay. Now I gotta remember. Why did I do this? and I'm pretty sure I did this for some kind of reason. I wanted to reduce the amount of fuffing about down here and changes that are happening when nothing is changing, right? So this should save us all of this down here. If these are the same, exit. Okay, otherwise, get down here. All right. Now, let me just also review what we did in terms of the styling up here. So we have the style. So we've just added this. We've only added this. These are in the right order relative to the base layers. Right? In the base layers, we have color at the bottom, then a bunch of stuff, highlights, grids, errors. Here, I put the highlight on top. Here, the highlights is underneath grids. Why is that? Maybe we still want to keep it in the same order then. There's no reason to change that order suddenly. Yeah, it makes the black outline stronger. It feels odd though. 1 second. If I do an SCF, something like this. Right now, is the selection above the grid line? No, it's below. Okay. All right, so this is correct. And if I do this, this works as expected. And now if I put a 1 here. Okay. So this redraws some elements inside colors. That's kind of what will happen. But it will only happen for these cells. Yeah, so that's the other question, right? Here, I'm running through all of the cells. Ah, yes. Okay, so instead of running through all of the cells with this thing, even though, frankly, it's not a big deal, we should now be able to operate on the difference between these two, right? And we shouldn't have to recalculate all of this. All cells.filter, parse cells, all cells.filter. This seems a little unnecessary, right? Puzzle.parse cells. So this, oh, because we're doing the inverse, right? We're getting all the cells that are not lit and still being in order of the actual cells, right? So this is getting us the inverse. I think inverted selection. I think this basically does the same thing, right? Filter cell not in selected includes dot cell. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So that's basically the inversion. Speaking of which, let me double check my bandwidth because I think they'll charge me by the megabyte or something crazy, which is hilarious. Wait, my bundles. I am now at 5.85 gigabytes. No, that's what it... No. That's what I was at the beginning. Unless they don't count upstream. Maybe they don't count upstream. Still says 5.85 gigabytes, so... I mean, the stream maybe doesn't actually use as much data than I thought, but it could also be that they don't count upstream. Don't tell anybody. Sweet. All right. Now, this part... Let me think. This part is independent of this part. So this... So let me see. Let's just make a list, right? We'll do changed cells. Every time a cell changes here, change cells dot push cell to RC. And we're just gonna say, all right, here's the cells, right? Nope. I don't have any space. All right. So if I change this cell, got 4 cells changed, 4 cells changed. If I put it there, no changed cell. Whoa. Whoa, what just happened? What just happened? If I put a 1 here, everything changed. And nothing output. What? What the heck? I put a 1 there. Changed cells. All of them changed. That doesn't make any sense. Ah, shoot. Okay, this is definitely wrong. Let's figure this out. By the way, if anything goes wrong with this stream and I'm not seeing it in chat, please poke me on Discord. I might not be seeing it. Okay, so before I changed that and they're equivalent, but I think I'm removing it up here, aren't I? I think init fog of war is removing that element up here. So if fog of war is not equal, no. All right, first of all, I don't think I need to have this in here. So the first time fog of war should ever be run is on attach, right? So if we move this to here, that should be okay. Now let's have a quick look how many times these individual functions are being called, and to make sure they're being called in the right order. So init fog of war, render fog of war. Now one of the things, so one of the problems is that it doesn't delete its own element. Because I kind of pretended this wasn't necessary, right? If query selector fog of war is not equal to null, init fog of war is not equal to null, then we just do a return. Right. On the other hand, for rendering this element here, query selector FOW path we'll do this. We'll just have to delete it, right? Every time we draw it, we just delete the previous one. And now putting something here isn't going to screw everything. But it also shows us that a lot of the stuff we were doing previously just isn't getting done anymore now. Okay. All right. All right, and now if I do this, do I click it? No. Oh, I happen to get the right digit there. Now, if I put a 2 here, like this, and bring it back, that'll still work. And if I put a 1 there, it'll change. Okay. So now, the last thing is that this, I don't have to run through all the cells anymore. So let's get rid of some of this extra logging I put in. Because technically, the difference between these two gives us what's supposedly changing, right? So lit cells. The thing is, it's not trivial how to diff these objects, right? I mean, it's not hard, but the question is it worth doing? I mean, structurally more cleaner, right? So, if I change this, right? So we have lit cells, lit cells. Now, these two are not the same. They look very similar. because they get updated underneath here. All right. So boop. They're not the same, and I can see they're different lengths. Now, these are not arrays. So I'd have to split them up into arrays, and then I have to create a diff. And I need a diff in either direction, which is kind of annoying. I guess what we can do is grab from one all the ones that aren't in the other one. So I'm just going to do this very messily. We'll just do a diff on the one. We're just going to do dot split by comma dot filter, and then we'll split it on every one just for now. Split by comma as well. And we'll filter all the ones that are included. And then we'll do the same thing in the opposite directions. So we'll do a letcells.diff here, and then change this to that. So what does that look like? So if I remove this one, it contains these 4. If I add this one, we never get there. If I put the 1 back, it contains the 4. If I put a 2 here, nothing. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's a 7. It added a 2. So our row 4, column 3, and row 5, column 3. Okay, those are connected. Now if I change this, and that's the only circumstance where the signature doesn't change, right? Oh, wait. The signature here, the signature should be the same. It's the same as if I'm placing it up here. Or is it just because I didn't place the right? 4, 3. How are they not the same? Wait a second. I'm still not outputting them at the right moment in time. So I put a 2 here. False. They are not the same. How are they different? Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm not clamping to the edges of the board. Okay. I knew that was gonna bite me in the butt. I think I think I need to do this in a cleaner way. RC to RC. Are we using 2RC elsewhere? No, we're literally just using it in these 3. So I can put these in here. I'm actually gonna bring that in as well. And I think we can just get rows and columns off the grid, right? So framework.app.puzzle.rows and calls. Right? So we can just do puzzle, rows, calls, puzzle, rows, calls, right? This is how it works. I think it is. Now we can just do this. Like that. That gives us the means of clipping, except it doesn't give us the min, max, and all that stuff. So this was actually a question I had for myself. Inside the puzzle, I actually limit most of my activities to the area enclosed by the innermost region. So anything that has a region assigned to it. And I was planning to actually apply that to the fog of war as well. So for example, if you had something like a phenomenal, you know, the painting puzzle, right? So if you had something like this, Japanese sums, sorry, that the fog of war would only actually affect this area. And in the future, maybe the fog of war would actually be a cage, right? So a cage could indicate where the fog of war sits. So it doesn't take up the whole board. One sec. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, the whole fog of war could be defined as a cage where just the pre-lit elements are just not marked in the cage. It might just be a bit of a pain in the ass to create such a large cage. Check pencil marks to the SudokuPad on Steam. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah. I gotta stop adding new features so I can make the existing features work everywhere. That's definitely high on my list. It's just this fog of war thing. A lot of people want to make puzzles with that. So one last one. That's the last one, and then I'll promise I'll update the mobile apps. God damn it! You're absolutely right. Thanks for the reminder. Don't let that be your last one. Thinking. Oh yeah, where was I? Yeah. So for now, I'm just gonna clip it to the board. So it's gotta be RC1 to rows calls, right? Which means we're gonna get rid of these zeros and all this stuff. And map.toRC. Resolve RC to RC. This seems such like a backwards way of doing things. This was like a very quick way of doing it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do something a little bit more elaborate here and a little bit more proper. I don't actually know if this... I think this is called only once, rather than once per lamp or something like that. Like it's not being called inside a map, you know what I mean? So get lit cells, we just have these RCs, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ciao guys. I'm gonna go... I'm not gonna sort them initially. I'm gonna sort them at the end as well. But or I'm gonna do something like we're gonna do const cells equals array. Then we're just gonna go for that L equals 0 L len lamps length L smaller than len L plus true. We'll do L lamps L. So that's our basic loop. We'll just go to a primitive loop. Performance will be much better. And then we're just gonna do a 3x3 row call loop, right? So, and I'm gonna change this now. I need a bit of extra width here. All right. And then what I'm gonna do is we're gonna loop on the R end. So we go let row math dot max 1. Ah, wait, yeah, okay. We'll go to max. The larger of 1 and this -1, right? So we never want to hit 0. And then we'll go we're going to call this R0. And then we're going to have R1. So R0 is the upper row, and then R1 is the lower row. And it's going to be min of rows. So if rows is 9, we're never going to exceed 9, right? And then we're going 1 up. And I'm actually going to extract these. So I'm going to do let RC equals lamps L RC, right? And then we'll do R. And then we'll just do RR equals R0, RR smaller or smaller than R1, R0 to smaller or equals to R1. And that's our row loop. And then we're going to do the same thing on the columns. And there's so many different ways of doing this. You can predefine an array with the offsets. Rest where possible, much more efficient. Cell object refs. More efficient. Not really, because right now I'm just getting a set of XY coordinates, right? What might be more efficient is not just switching back and forth to string representation over and over, right? But I'm not actually the cell, because the cells don't have anything in them that I need at this stage. Right now I just need to get a set of coordinates, right? Of row column values. So I'm just going to do this and see what I get. So this should give me 9 per cell, except for the ones extremely near the edges. C1 here and here. And here. And I did not actually increment them. Which means this browser is in an infinite loop and might never get out of there. Let's see if we can kill it. Uh-oh. 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 Can I kill it? Can we kill it? Well, I'm gonna kill 10 tabs at the same time. Seems to be the only way getting it out of there. All right. RR small equals C2. RR equals... Wait, I forgot how for loops work. I don't have to initialize them. Thought it. All right. RR is not defined. RR or her. Oh, wait. Yeah. I guess we can just iterate the 0 to the 1, right? I guess. Okay. So, for example, this is a good example. This is a element we 1 1. So that's this guy, and it only gets us 4 squares. Okay, so this clips everything ahead of time. I mean, we could also just calculate them all and then do the clipping afterwards. And then cells right now here are just going to be row column values, right? And is this accurate? Yeah, I think these are all accurate, right? So then we can just do cells.push R0, C0 as an array. And then we can just do cells. Sorry, this is a little long-winded for something quite simple. Just need to kind of clean up, you know, the sins of my prototyping past. So, cells are these little sets of arrays, and there are 40 of them. And we get 51 changed cells. So how do I end up with 40 over here? And then we get 51 down here. Changed cells. Changed cells. So we also have these guys. So we should also do this. Just to have an idea how big these guys are compared to that 40 that we just found. So Litzel's signature is 35. What is different about Litzel's signature than compared to what I'm calculating in here? Seven, 6. These do not sound right at all. These are row 7, columns. Oh, wait. Row 7, 8, 9. So that's these 3. 6, 7, 8. I have a feeling one of these is 0 based and one isn't. 7, 8, 9. But then 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. Oh, wait. It's this light bulb. Okay. All right. Then we have 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. That's this light bulb. Okay. All right. And then we have 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. That's this 2 up here. That's fine. And this is where the duplication starts, right? We get a bunch of duplicates. And that's one of the issues why I like to use strings sometimes, is because to deep duplicate arrays of arrays is actually really, really annoying. And I don't know where I lose more efficiency, parsing the strings afterwards or doing complex operations for deduplications where operating on... and that's why you mentioned using cell references, huh? Because they're all unique. I don't know if I have access to the cells in a grid layout. I think I do, actually. I say it, but as I'm saying it, I'm pretty sure I do. They're right there. I'm guessing, Mark, that is what you were telling me about, and I wasn't understanding. So we have puzzle, grid, cells. So now puzzle.grid is a complex object, right? But I think puzzle.grid actually has a grid equal. Grid has a accessor function, right? Get cell, yeah. So if we use this, if we use grid.getCell, because then we have a unique reference that we can sort by. So that should work. We have cell references. And interestingly, what are these undefined guys, right? So some of these coordinates, probably because the numbers are off by 1, right? Because they're 0 based on the thingamajigs. I'm just gonna subtract 1 here. Normally on array indexes, I go 0 based. So this is a little bit of a cluster mess. All right, so that should give us 40 cells. So let cell equals juk. And then if cells dot, if not cells dot includes cell, cells dot push. Oh, So that should... Now, I don't know personally if this is more or less efficient than just adding them quickly in and then doing a set operation afterwards. It probably depends on how often you're doing it. If you're doing a linear search for each element. And I don't know if set is more efficient than that, but it might be more or less the same code under the bonnet. All right. So now we have 30 cells versus 35 because we're excluding these 5 bastards. Okay, that's why now I'm remembering why we're doing it, because we're trying to get rid of these 5 bastards, right? Now, the thing is, we already have cell references here. The problem is we don't need cell references. We need the inverse of cell references. So the question is, can we use cell references? And I think we can, because we can now do everything in terms of cell references. And I'm thinking that is what Mark was talking about. And that should be more efficient, right? All right. So get lit cells gives us cells. So lit cells would now literally be an array of cells. Now, the thing is, to get the signature, that's the real problem. Then we have to go back to a string. But maybe that's okay. All right. Right. Now, the question is, we're starting with cell references here. So maybe FOW lamps are this thing. Right. FOW lamps are these array constructs. I'm just thinking, like, what if we just go start, like, if lamps are also cells, right? Although it doesn't actually give... No, it doesn't give us any benefit here. Because I'm just thinking here, I'm actually converting the cells to a string. Then I'm re-resolving it. And that seems a little bit silly, right? Just so I can concatenate it with the other thing, right? So I think it's actually much more efficient, because there's going to be relatively few lamps, right? So it's probably better if we just stay on cells. Because if I remove these, I'm actually concatenating and get rid of this resolve step. Then I'm concatenating 2 different things, which will blow up, right? But I can look at it. So you see, in this case, I'll have 3 coordinates and 3 cells. So if I convert the coordinates to cells, or I can just handle either type. I think it'll be easier to just convert them. Okay. So what we can do is we're passing in an array. We're gonna map these like this. Like that. And we're gonna spread them out nice and wide. And then we're gonna do the same thing with these guys. I'll spread them out too. And then we don't need any of the other stuff, I think. Yeah, we don't need that. And then this we can probably just say something like we'll do const get filter lit cell. Right? And yeah, we need the whole thing because we need to look at the solution, make sure it's a solved cell, etc. We need to pass in the index, and then it'll return all of that. So we can just run that through filter in here, like that. And now this is going to get all pure cells. And then instead of doing this, we can do row as R, call as C, and just, you know, extract that out of the object like that. Maybe not. An index cell. Yeah, so now these are zero based. So now we need to do this instead. And then we don't need to, oops, we don't need to modify this down here instead. All right, and that should all line up. It should get us a list of 32 cells now. I don't know why this gives us 32 when we before got 30. And then it breaks down. Okay. We should now be able to just return cells here. Now, these aren't sorted or anything like that. Okay. So now lit cells over here need to be converted to a signature somehow, right? So lit cells is just a yada yada. Okay, so we can now do this map c to c.2rc, right? Lit cells c. Wait, lit cells, and then join. Okay. Or even, can we even use this one? No. So lit cell signature should, lit cells signature should come about correctly. Okay. And now this is obviously broken, right? So all cells here, we're converting the cells. Yeah, okay, so we don't actually want that now. We don't want to, we got to remove all those backwards conversions. So we want to look at puzzle.cells. Puzzle.cells, cell objects, right? And do we need all cells afterwards? No. So the reason we're using all cells is because we're doing an inverse inversion, right? So let's do the inversion. But now we don't need to do a multiple conversion, whatever, right? So we can just do filter. It's a good question. Let me display it properly, and then I can hopefully debug it more easily. So that gets us a cell. And we have, what do we have? We have the lit cell signature. We have lit cells, right? So lit cells is what we're going to compare against. Includes cell. And we don't need to join this together. Filter. So that should get us the inversion. 49. Does that work? Not at all, right? That's no, that's correct. Okay. Yeah. So that's it, right? Last fog of war cells equals this. And I think, Mark, well, you're right. Like it'll simplify lots of things downstream. Actually, I keep forgetting that I can use objects as unique references, right? And then still have complex information in them. Okay. So why do we have 32? Let's count them, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's 20 plus 6 times 2 plus 12 is 32. Okay. So there's 32 unlit cells, right? 32 unfogged cells. Probably you didn't remember that I was messing around and adding characters. Of course, looking at this is all wrong, right? Because the light bulb, nothing seems to be lighting up things correctly. So if I restart... Okay, so things are... Yeah. Okay, so the reason it's wrong is because cells are 0-based and the light bulbs are 1-based. So I need to modify that. So I think light up isn't used anymore in art. Yeah, so I can get rid of these. So these are -1 and -1 here. And that should get us the correct statement. And that gets us 18 lit cells. Don't need all this anymore. Right? 18 lit cells. Puzzle lit cells output twice. Well, that's just this. Okay, so now as I'm removing all the debugging code, it's actually going to be slightly less of a mess. Whew. So let's see how that changes. And then ultimately, we want to have a diff, correct diff. So if I go here, boom, what do we get? We get, by the way, let me get rid of the timestamps. They're just taking up space that we ain't got. Timestamps. Indentation. Timestamps. There you go. So we've clicked one field. We've added 4 unlit or 4 lit cells, right? So lit cells are now 22. They were 9 plus 9 before. That's 18. Okay, so that's 4 more. Signature is a mismatch. The previous signature was 18. The new signature is 22. The diffs are not correct now. Changed cells are 4. So the idea is this changed cells listing. That's what actually has changed. Okay, so now let's see if we can do this the other way around. 32 cells not correct there. Can I, instead of using this as a signature, I'm wondering if converting this to a string. I mean, it's creating the string for the signatures is not really a big deal. I'm just thinking that instead of storing as a string, I could store it as an array and then just convert it for the signature comparison, right? So instead of doing this here, I could assign just the lit cells to this and then just create signatures on both sides, right? So we could do let rev lit cell lit cells sig equals this and next. So we have previous and next, right? And the previous comes from this dot and next comes from this. And then we can output them both down here and here. Whoops, and here. And then we'll just do next, next, and next, and rev and rev. We don't need that. And if this is true, it's true. All right. Lit cells dot map. This dot lit cells. Yeah, okay, so that needs to be an array now. Here as well, and here as well. And where are we? Lit cell signature is not defined. I'm probably, oh yeah, lit cell signature. So that's now rev and next. So that's just kind of reverso. So we don't have a diff here at all. Does that make sense? No, that does not make sense. So this is obviously, yeah, we now no longer have to split to do this. That's kind of the reason, another reason why we're doing it. So we don't have to do all this string shenanigans. Okay. Sanity is slowly being restored. All right, so filter is not a function. Pref cell signature. Oh, yeah, okay. So pref cell, we can just go on this now. And then lit cell is this way. And we have this way. So, false. They're not the same. Both differences are blank. That doesn't make sense. 1 second. So, we have lit cells, and we should also look at this dot lit cells. Right? So we have lit cells 22, this dot lit cells is empty. So one of these should have 20, right? And I think I just saw there was an R and a C. Okay. We're filtering all of the ones that are included, and here we're filtering all the ones that are included in the other one. Filter all the ones that are also in here. This should not contain any of them. No. As we're going through, oh, wait, is this before or after the assignment? No, it's after the assignments. Also, why am I here? Like that, okay. What am I getting wrong here? So, this dot lit cells is an empty array. Lit cells is an array of 22 elements. We shouldn't be hitting this. They're not the same. We're looking at the signatures here. Okay, that's fine. Let me put the diffs above them. I don't trust this signature stuff. There might be something fishy be going on. So we have this lit cells, empty array, and this. So we're looping through one. So lit cells is empty, so there's nothing to filter here. And this lit cell, no, this is empty, sorry. So this is always going to be an empty diff in that direction. Now lit cells is filtering. Okay, so it's the inverse. It's including all the ones that are not in the other one. All right, so that's what I was getting wrong. So that's empty, but that's 22. So if we merge them together, that's 22 changes. Now if I remove this, now the diff is 4 cells in the other direction, right? So this should always get us the cells that actually change. So nothing changes until I find the right one. And now that gets us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So wait, this gets us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so this gets us these 4 plus these 3. So it gets us 7 changed cells. Okay, so the idea being this difference, these two things together are the cells we actually need to look at. So we're going to do console. Sometimes I worry about myself. This shouldn't have taken this long. So the div is basically the union of these two guys. Right. We're going to just join these together. Like that. And diff is an array of 29. This. So diff is 29. And if I remove this, the diff should only be 7. And if I remove this, the diff should be 4. And it should match the changed cells. So the diff is these 4 cells. And it's 3, 3, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So the idea is now we can calculate the diff like this. And we don't have to run through all of the cells. Okay. And we have to calculate that before we get here. So const changed cells equals these. Now, obviously, you can't do that. So we've got change cells here. Then we do the assignments afterwards. And then instead of going through here, we're just going to go through only the change cells. Now, I think we could probably remove some of these checks now because we know all the change cells have been changed, right? So that should, if not speed up, simplify some of these. So this is not really a check anymore. We don't really care about that. This is no longer applicable. These are all changed. And then we'll just basically do this like that. If it's true, it's this. Else it's undefined. That gets rid of all this stuff. All right. And when we're done with it all, it's hopefully simpler and even more efficient. Okay. So put a 1 here. Put a 5 here. All right. And it should only update the cells required. Okay. Let's get rid of all of this extraneous logging. These signatures, I mean, I could just compare, do an array compare, right? And actually loop through it or whatever. I don't know if that's faster or slow. It's probably faster than calling this function, but it's not a big deal. All right. This diff is no longer relevant. FOW lamps. Do we still... Yeah, those could come in here. Filter lit cells. That's a little filter function here. I'll put that up here. Okay. Now the question is, do I want this as a function here, or do I just literally just run the code here? That's one of those questions that is really not even worth asking, so I can just do that. Now the signatures now are really just used for comparison. So I'm tempted to wrap this as well into a helper function, right? So const cell list equal a b, and we'll just do a dot equals b dot cell list equal. That sounds weird in the singular. And then we're gonna do if cell list equal. Nope. Just gonna compare this to this. Sorry if I'm sounding like I'm about to suffocate. Trying to make myself faster by not breathing. All right. I really would change the signature compare into an array compare. The problem is it's O squared, right? And you have to go both ways. I mean, I guess you can do if a dot length not equal b dot length return. I think if the lengths are the same, we only have to loop through one run, right? Return false. Then for let I equal 0, r for len. Then equal r not lang. I small and lang. Then we'll just do if AI is not equal to BI, return false. Return true. I guess the early exit on a non-match is the benefit here. All right. But now that it's pulled out into a function, it doesn't affect anything else, right? I'm not storing the data in that format. Of course, I also broke it. I broke it. If AI is not equal to BI, AB, cell list equal. What did I break? See, the difference is this one doesn't work. The other one worked. That's really the main difference. So what is most important? Oh dear. And what do we got? False. If false, if true, return. Else, we continue. Alright, well, I've prematurely removed all my logging. In fact, FOW cells hit. Oh, wait. Ugh, I need it. Okay. Alright. Alright. I'm an idiot. It's official. Okay, so let's just make sure we're doing things in a reasonable order. The helper functions should probably be higher up. If we don't have a fog of war, we're just skipping out. We can do this earlier. Solution needs to come out of back there. So we probably, because of the, yeah, that's fine. It's fine. SVG element. Do we even need that here? No. Okay, so that's a completely unnecessary thing. FOW lamps, we can pull that down to here. Do we use them for anything else? No. So, we're resolving them here, and then we're mapping them. That's fine. I'm okay with turning that into a thing, and I'm gonna put that into a helper function. We'll do just const get FOW lamp cells, and that's just gonna return this like that. That's what it's gonna do. I'm just moving it into a function just for cleanliness, hygiene, right? So we have the FOW lamp cells. Ooh, completely broken. FOW lamp cells. Resolve. Is that resolving that? Then we're mapping it. And that's just gonna be like, no, no, doesn't like it. What do you not like? Probably doesn't like this. The gain is again. The gain, the function called string creation per cell and concat and individual character. Yeah. All right. All right. There's so much garbage being generated with all these little operations. Do we need it sorted right now? No, we no longer don't need it. We don't need it sorted anymore because we're actually doing an array compare. So the order no longer matters. Yay. It also doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if we have duplicates. Yes, it matters. But this get lit cells shouldn't generate duplicates. Now filter lit cells. Filter lit cells. Okay, that gets us all the cells are lit. This shouldn't generate duplicates. Okay, so we're good with that. Changed cells, we're only really using to minimize this and to get rid of all that extra checking. This we need to regenerate anyways completely, so that's fine. I'm tempted to actually move the rendering of the path into its little function. Well, this is called render fog of war. So to be honest, I'm actually... Let's just review what we're doing, because that's the only thing that we care about. But we need to calculate the cells, which is a side effect. We need to re-render that cell, so that's actually part of it, right? And then the rest of this is just decision-making, basically. So, render fog of war. I'm just thinking, like, should I pull the decision-making out into its own function? So what are we doing here in order? This gets us the current lamp cells. This checks if our cells have changed. That filters out the cells that are lit versus the cells that aren't lit. And that gets all the lit cells. Okay, I'm okay with that. All right, so let's just subdivide this with some comments. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to call this find lit cells. Lit cells. Then update changed cells. We have to do this before this assignment, right? Otherwise, we don't have access to which cells actually changed. Now, does that give us duplicates? It'll give us all the cells that are in one and not the other, and all that are in the other but not in the one. So this should never give us duplicates, right? And fog of war. Cell here includes fog of war. So that just tells us if the cell is in the fog of war. And we could do this with kind of filters thing, but it doesn't really make sense, right? We know the cell changes, so it makes sense to re-render it. Update change cells. I guess this whole block is just that. I'm just wondering if I should group these up here, because the only reason this assignment is here is because this needs to be above that. And this assignment just tells us, hey, this is the state that we've established, right? An alternative would be to make this assignment higher and just remember the newly lit cells, right? Kind of the next and the previous and all that stuff. Kind of have a temporary variable for that. But that's fine, I think. Update changed cells, and then we'll just do render new fog of war. And I think now this is a little bit more more structured. And in the future, we might take each of these little parts into their own function. I think that might make sense. All right, I think actually this makes a lot of sense. I think it's much more efficient. It now handles givens correctly, I believe. Well, correctly. It handles them in a specific way that some people requested. Now, if that's the correct way, you know, scholars will argue about for the centuries and all that. So the question is, and that's maybe not a question for today, but the question is, how much of this stuff do we want to be able to change? So givens show up. So the givens are kind of, in a weird way, they're the only clue that happens above the fog of war. Now, internally, the reason is that givens are handled exactly like user input. But they're not really. They're just clues, right? Let me just have a quick look down the chat. Who talked about the... Because I got a couple of private messages, I got a couple of chats, and lately there was a bunch of other stuff mixed in, so I'm going to have to look a little bit more carefully. Let me see. If I search for given... Imagine would take a bit of work. Might be... what was that? The way I was trying to do it was for the given to be hidden almost until the end, and the fact would resolve a deadly pattern the solver wouldn't have found. Ah. Sorry. Yeah. It was the opposite. They wanted the givens to be hidden. Oh, wait. Okay, so my bad, right? The thing I changed is that the givens are... Excuse me. The givens are not revealing the fog. But should the givens be below the fog? Because consistently speaking, yes, because givens aren't user input. They are clues. Why do givens appear above? Because, I believe because givens are rendered by the cell, right? But they are just in a layer. So let's see. But they're on a layer pretty high up. So I'd have to change where the fog of layer gets added. So instead of after overlay, I'd have to add them after cell givens. So that would be the main change. And I don't think that affects anything else, right? So this would just implement the layer here. Yeah, I think that makes more sense because givens are a clue. All right, so that was the other change. Now, I don't know if I should actually have these as separate things because they're kind of two changes, right? If you know what I mean. To be honest, what I also wanted to do... Oh, 1 second. Let me check my phone again because I'm kind of worried about my bandwidth cost. My data is not going down. Either my computer is not connected through my phone like I thought. Maybe it is not. Maybe it's not. I think I might not actually be connected the way I thought I was connected. I thought I disabled everything else. I thought this was my phone. Disabled, disabled, not connected. Disabled, 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 disabled. Wi-Fi card not connected. Disabled, disabled, disabled. No, I am connected through my phone. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that is... No, wait. No, that is not my phone. So I'm not connected through my phone. How am I connected? I'm not connected through Wi-Fi. What is going on? Well, I guess it is not really of concern right now because... I'm a bit worried. Wait a second, my phone... The hotspot isn't even on. Am I still connected to the stream? I just realized what's going on. And it's the absolute worst of all the worlds. Somehow. So what happened somehow is that I disconnected my computer from the network. I connected to my phone via USB tethering, but somehow my phone is connected via Wi-Fi to the other the other device, the 4G hotspot. So my computer is connecting through the phone. The phone is connecting through Wi-Fi to the slow hotspot, and that's how I've been streaming apparently. So I've not been using the 4G bandwidth of my phone, but I've done, instead of going directly through an Ethernet cable from my computer to the device, I've been going through my phone. Now, I seem to have killed the stream, but maybe I'm back now. I don't know. It'd be nice if somebody let me know. I don't even know what the quality on the stream is. I don't know if it works with 1080p at all. This is bizarre. This has not happened to me before. I found a new web screen up. So in the reality, if I enable Ethernet on my computer, it should just improve things a lot. And I mean, okay. On the plus side, it turns out I can stream through the slower of these Wi-Fi connection, of these 4G connections. So that's great. I think I'm connected again. I don't know if I'm connected to chat still. All my stream windows should tell me chat is disconnected. Am I back? I don't know if I can reconnect this chat from my studio connection if I refresh the page. I hope that doesn't screw anything up. I think I'm back. Holy moly. Okay, so I don't know if you guys got that, but basically what happened was I was connecting to my phone via USB, and my phone was connecting via Wi-Fi to the other 4G hotspot, and then to the internet through that. So how many wireless hops can I do in one setup within just from my PC to stream through? Holy moly. Well, at least streaming doesn't have a problem with latency, apparently. Okay. All right, so what did we do? Okay, so the one thing I didn't do at all, which I really want to do today, is to actually build a page for these nice Fog of War puzzles. So before I think about that, and I probably won't get very far into it because I need to go to the bathroom. I'm just going to have a quick review. So we added lit cells as an array. we're keeping them from... We've added the color stuff that Mark designed, and it's working actually quite well, and I'm okay. I mean, I'm not super happy with this. Oh yeah, you mentioned earlier about maybe renaming this. This was maybe the last thing to do, to rename it to something more explicit. So in the future, I'm just wondering. I mean, I understand why you did this way, because in theory, this can also be added to the other ones, right? But I'm also almost feeling that this target string maybe should be calculated elsewhere, if you know what I mean. And why is it... I think part of the problem is that we have different things. Classes for individual elements, and then targets for where these elements get placed, right? So for example, if we're looking at candidate, it's just using key here. Okay, no, that would also work. Okay, that would also work. All right, so maybe instead of layer, what we're going to do is we're going to call it something like... prefix. The other thing I don't like about is that it's an error. That you're using undefined as the other side of the coin, right? So I'm wondering if what we really want here is an object. And I don't know why I'm even doing this here. This is ridiculous, right? It shouldn't be the... I think my plan was this to apply to all of them. Like, is this being used elsewhere? Child. Because I'm wondering if this get child interfere. You see, because it won't match this. It will fail here. Let me think. Target. So get child element. Because this generates the element if required. Now, the reason why it works for color is because color doesn't run through get child element. And maybe none of them should. Maybe each of these kinds of tools should render themselves and not go through this process here. So this is probably a bigger refactor, so it's probably something I should stay away from. I'm just thinking, is there something I can do that's either more explicit or more specific, right? I'm almost tempted to, like you said, just have a Boolean flag is in Fog of War, and then just have explicit code here that deals with that Boolean flag, right? So, in other words, here... we could just, instead of doing this, we could say cell.isFogged equals Fog of War cells. Fog of War cells. Like that. And then if I go here, I'm gonna do just log this.isFogged. So if I do this, does this not execute here? Wait a second. Colors is fogged. Oh, colors. That just said it, right? We need colors. Okay. So, is fogged is false. Replace is undefined. Now, if I change this, I change this to get toggled each time. Right. And then here we could say We could have the regular target. And then we can just say if is fogged target equals fog of war dash. I mean, it's more explicit, but you know, since nothing else is using layer, the layer wasn't actually more general. The problem is that it'll break other stuff. So in a way, I'd rather have the tight linking that I can then address next time. In the future, if I see color target, I don't actually, you know, like what it really needs is a refactor where all the targets are actually defined elsewhere specifically that can be manipulated from the outside, right? I mean, what you're doing is just like relabeling it. Let me think. This, because this is always going to be cell color, right? So what we really want is we can basically do this. This dot color target equals cell dash color, right? We can just do this. Then we can use this dot color target instead of any of this stuff, like that. Like that. Or like that. Right? Then we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. And we don't need that. All of that just disappears. So that should work as before. Target with an S, colors, boom, right? Cell colors, color target. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm just gonna do that. So that should work like that. Right? And obviously no extra support. And then here we can just modify color target. So we can just say color target equals this cell dash color or cell that colors, like that. And then it's super generic, right? Now, this did not render correct initially. Why is that? Let's see. Probably because initially color target equals that. Rendered values is fog. Okay, well, it's fog we don't need. Color target fog of war dash cell colors or cell colors. So what if we do cell dot to RC cell dot color target and includes false. Includes cell. So fog of war cells are 63. So these are all the fogged cells. And we are deciding if these are fogged or not. None of these are fogged. There's 18. So it's only showing these as changed cells. Ah, okay, and that's the problem, right? So initially, it's treating either all the on cells or the off cells as changed, but we need to treat all of them as changed, right? So there's two ways of doing this. This would be either to invert the thing or to have some kind of initial state to imply they all need to be modified, right? Because right now the change cells array shows which cells are lit, and by having it empty, it implies all of them are unlit initially, right? So what I might be able to do is, if I set this to undefined, what would that mean? Lit cells. Let me think. We need to change all of the cells to redraw them. Now the thing is, this only cares about color. That's the only cell where it matters. So we need a way of... So there's two options, right? One is we have an initial full redraw. So we have a forced redraw where we just render all cells. Or secondly, we do something like we're initializing it to the inverse, right? So let's say if everything is fogged, we still want to redraw all the colored cells anyways. So they appear above the fog, right? So we're gonna do a force redraw. So we'll do a force false. And we're gonna... all the checks we're just gonna skip if force is true. So we still need to calculate the FOW cells, right? And to calculate the FOW cells, we need to calculate all the other things, right? But change cells we don't actually care about anymore. So we're gonna do, first of all, if not force, or if force is false, if not force is false, and if force is true, we don't exit at all. If force return, no, if not force and not, okay. So if not force and this is true, we can still return. If not for, wait, 1 second. If force is false, we need to look at that. If not force and, yes. If force is true, we don't need to look at that. We continue. Okay. And then change cells. We're basically going to initialize them to all cells for the purposes of this, right? And change cells is only needed for the color cells. So maybe actually I'm going to rename this from change cells to... No. All right. No. We'll just dump all the cells in here, right? So we're just gonna do if force is true, we're gonna put in cells. That's it, right? We're just gonna dump all the cells in here, and I'm sure we have a reference to them somewhere. Puzzle.cells, right? That gets us 81 cells, and bang, bang, right? Lit cells still operates as normal because that's just taking care of this thing. And we need this, yeah. If not force, we got these two things. And that means we gotta put the array here. Basically. Right. So, if force, puzzle cells, otherwise new array. Right? So that, and now obviously we need to call with force. So on, and we only need to force it once. After that, the change cells mechanism should kick in correctly. No, we need to force it on handle start and all those things as well, because that's when data gets loaded and all that stuff. So force true here, render fog of war, force true on the initial. Not force true here, and on handle load, force true. Because those is when the actual underlying data of the puzzle might have changed, right? Yeah, so the color's on top. Okay, if I refresh from here, color's on top. If I refresh from here, If I refresh from here, colors on top. Okay. And now we have color target. That's literally just the string that the cell always writes into. It doesn't actually do any extra calculation. We don't need that generating the target from here. We have its own target. In the future, this whole piece of code here and anything related to colors should go away out of the cell and should get attached as a component, right? And same with all the other ones, basically. And now, what do we have left with actual core changes? So now the core change actually is we're just moving color target as a string on the object itself, which is just initialized once, and in all code that doesn't do fog of war, it's literally just removing this extra regular expression, and that makes it more efficient, right? That's really the only thing that's changed in core now. So all we did was, instead of calculating the target from this string, which is defined statically just the line above, yeah. And I mean, these could be constant stuff, but I don't want to. So our changes to here are super simple. To core, and then in our module here, we've added the necessity of initially redrawing all the cells to make sure that the colors are rendered in the right places. But this little conditional over here, I'm getting clicks from my microphone. It's a bit strange. These little conditionals shouldn't really affect the normal operation anyway. Do you guys hear clicking? I'm hearing clicking, like, but it's like a, it's like, I hope my wires or my plug isn't kind of getting damaged. This is, yeah. All right. And other than that, I don't think we've added any, or we've got all the logging fairly cleared out. Okay, this code is all, yeah, cleaned up. We've done the forcing here. We reinitialize lit cells here. We could also, because wherever I'm initializing lit cells, I'm also forcing, right? So maybe because we're forcing, and forcing ignores this exit clause and then assigns it here. So cells equal, yeah. But this whole thing gets skipped if force is true. And that gets assigned. All right, so whenever force is true, we don't actually need to do that. And vice versa, whenever we're forcing true, it makes sense to do that. And here we're just doing it because it's cleanup, right? We do it on startup. That's something else. And we're doing that on detach. Okay. So, all right. Let's prepare this whole thing as a release. I don't think this should be a patch. I think this will be a minor. Bump minor, right? And that goes on here as well. So that's version 220. Oh. This is really loud in my ears. I hope this is okay. So 220 fog of war, color layer, fog of war color layer, and hidden givens. All right. And I'm gonna push this. Well, yeah, I'm gonna push that because this is still in beta and I can't afford to break it. Now, what I also want to do is I want to show off this feature on a little page somewhere. So we have the home page, and this is gonna change. I'm gonna put my own branding on this and kind of list puzzles and stuff. But we're gonna have a small subpage here and just kind of place some puzzles on there using the new Okay. Using the new API, the new thumbnail API, lay out the puzzles a little bit, kind of similar-ish to how it is on the app. Okay, I'm getting analog noise in here. Maybe the battery is running low on this thing. Yeah, I think I gotta call it a day. I'm surprised I managed to stream this long with my phone, with my shitty phone connection. Yeah, so let's have a quick review of the puzzles that we have. So we have 3 for sure. So we have this one, which is kind of the grandfather, Lumos Maxima, right? So we have Lumos Maxima by Chameleon. Then we have the new-ish. Yeah, that's James Sinclair. We're not very careful about. Bug warning, we don't want to show. No, well, I keep showing it off. What's wrong with me? Where's the other one? We have Lost by Dathan. Okay, let's use this one. Lost by Dathan. And we have a URL for this one. And I'm gonna put Simon's on the list. Purely for the idea that that I might list it with a link to his blog instead of a direct link. So we have fog warning. That's only 3 so far. I don't know if there's somebody else who announced they were going to work on one. I'm going to just check. Partial grid check and partial grids.
Hey Sven, I just wanted to show you what I'm doing. So what I've started working on is a series of puzzles which are a Sudoku problem series where you...
All right, Bremster's encountered some issue that I didn't fully understand. He made a video for that. I don't know if you guys even hear that. On purple, OBS, okay. Put 5 on the edge and it didn't light up. 5 through front might have done something silly though. Interesting bug with the fog of 4 puzzle import. It treats a given digit as lights sometimes. Okay. I just think purple mentioned I was planning on using hidden digits, but when I was trying to show it off, it worked. Okay, so the grid was like, so what did we just release to 0.220? Yeah. 0.220. So that should hide givens now. Okay. But I don't think we have a third puzzle yet. So I think I'm going to call the stream here and I'm just going to do Dathan's puzzle on beta to make sure we're testing the latest features, right? Gonna have the console open. So we're on v20.0 and this was a screenshot of Chameleons, right? No, this is, I'm looking at the wrong one again. Lost. Here we go. So, oh, don't. So spoiling these puzzles is actually going to be a bit of a problem. But to be honest, when I tried Luminous Maximus as without the Fog of War, it was a tough puzzle. So sometimes the Fog of War is not, it can almost guide you to where to look next. So it could actually be an improvement, like it might make it easier rather than harder. All right, so this was only the second Fog of War puzzles I've seen. So, and I like the way it starts, right? So it's like it lulls you into a sense of security with being, oh, this is easy, and then suddenly, wait a second, you know. So it took me a bit to kind of get the hang of it. So we have a 6 cage here. And the 9 has a 1, 2, 3, or 4 in it, and can't have a 1, 2, 3 anymore. So it has to be a 4, 5, right? And now, what can the 13 be? It cannot be 4, 9, or 5, 8, so it's a 6, 7, and then we only have an 8, 9 left. And this is what took me a while to see. Okay, we knew this was a 1, 3, and I did some filling in of this thermo. But what I missed initially was that there's a 9 on the bulb of a thermo, and you can just see the edges leave on. And that's something that probably will need some tuning, the edge of the fog of war. It also, to generate this gradient, I'm actually redrawing it 10 times, and it's probably overkill. Probably in the future, I'll reduce this to maybe half of that. It'll be a bit more messy, but yeah, it's like the edges are a little hard to see, and 10 layers of transparency is maybe unnecessary. Anyway, so this is an 8, and that reveals a few extra bits. Okay, there's a 1 here, and that puts a 1 down here, which doesn't actually reveal anything. But this is kind of the next step, I think. Column 1 is off screen. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I sometimes forget that the side of my text editor is actually not on the stream, and there's a plant covering my screen on the left side, so I don't actually see that. All right, thanks. So this cannot be a 1, 2, or 3. So the lowest can be as a 4, 5, 6. Then this can be a 7, 8, or 9, except this is a 8, 9 thermo over here. So this cannot be a 9. So this can only be a 6 or a 7, 5 or a 6, and a 4 or 5. But we have a 6, 7 pair here, so that makes this a 5 and this a 4, and that reveals the final digit, which has to be an 8 or a 9, higher than a 7, right? And it is inside a 12 cage, so this has got to be an 8, 4 or 9, 3, except we can't have the 4s in here. So this is a 3, and this is a 9, and then this is a 1, 3 here, and that reveals our thermo here, and I'm going to be a little bit naughty, so 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, so 1, 2, 3, or 4. Can't be a 1, right? But this column's actually pretty limited, right? So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6. But it can't be a 4, 5. We have this down here, right? And it can't be a 3. So this must be a 6. And we have 7, 8, 8, 9 here. And that's a 7 cage. That's a 1, 2, 4. And the only ones missing are the 5 and the 6. Because we have the 3 right here. And then down here, that 6 is now resolved. And this column is finished with a 2. And then we can be a bit naughty again and just fill this in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? So it's not a 2, 3. That's where our 2 goes. And that's what we end up over here. And then this cage is finished with a 6. Next step is we have an 11 cage, right? But we can fill in these 3 cells with a 5, 7, or 9. 5, 7, or 9, right? Now, if we're looking at the 11 cage, if this is a 9, this would have to be a 2, but it can only be a 3, so it can't be a 9. Now, if this is an 8, the lowest this can be is a 5. That's higher than 11, so that can't be an 8, right? So, if this is a 5... wait, no, we have a 5, 7 pair, so this becomes a 9. It'll reveal the rest of this cage. And, oh, it's a 3-cell cage. Now, if this is a 5... Oh, it can't be a 5, because we have a 5, 6 there. Becomes a 7, becomes a 5. Now that is a 7. If this is a 4, that's already 11, and we have nothing to put in here. So that's got to be a 3, 4, and 8, and this has got to be a 1. And that gets us a couple of things over here. And that almost finishes the first row with a 8 and a 9. And then we can fill these in with just 3 digits each, which is, I think, worth filling in. 4, 6, 7. Even though it doesn't actually reveal anything. Except we have an end of a thermo here. And this is also going to be a tricky thing in the future, is how to distinguish thermals from other lines. Although we can probably do it with colors when the bulb is hidden, right? But this can't be a 1, so this can't be a 2. And 3 is not bigger than 4, so this has to be a 5. And the only thing smaller than a 5 is a 4. So this has got to be a 4. And that actually reveals that thermal. And I'm hoping that is how Dathan originally intended the break-it, I imagine, right? Now, the 14 is a 5, 6, 8, 9, right? So we have 5, 6, 8, 9, except this can't be a 6 or an 8, which means this can't be a 6 or an 8, and it can't be a 9, so that's a 5, that's a 9, 4, and 5 revealed, right? And even up here, even though that doesn't reveal any more squares. So, we actually have, I think there's a, if I recall, there's almost a what's the word, naked single in here, but I'm not entirely certain. let us fill in these quickly. Even though there's 4. I'm not above filling in 4 digits. Although it does not reveal anything right now. Now we have a thermo here, which means, well, this can be a 1 or a 2. So the smallest this can be is a 3. The smallest this can be is a 4. So that's a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 can't be because we're here. And that's a 5. The 5 can't be here. So 1, 2, 3. So this can be a 3. Can't be a 4 because of that 4 up here. So this can only be a 3 and a 5. It's quite limited. And I think we have a similar limitation down here. So the smallest this can be is a 3. Can't be 4 or 5. 6, 7, 8. Right? Well, it can't be a 9. This can't be a 9, so this can't be an 8. So the largest can be as an 8. Except it can't be, which means this can't be a 7. So it can't be an 8. It could be a 7. Could be a 6. Can't be a 5 or a 4. Right? And now we have a 3, 5 here and a 3, 6 here. And I'm trying to remember how this was resolved. I think it was resolved by the fact that something couldn't go in here and had to go in here. I think before I used to just fill in these 5s. I think this might be worth filling in because we have that opposition over here. And let's have a quick look at our digit options. You see, low 1 is boxed into this cell, and that reveals everything over here. Now, this is not a big surprise that these are two cells thermos, right? That pretty much was expected. This is still open, right, to either one. Okay. Well, one over here. But we have the tip of our thermo here, which is, I'm sure, gonna help us in a moment. This can't be a 2, so that eliminates the 3, and we see what the third shape of the thermo is. I used, last time I solved this, I didn't get it that early. So it's obviously not something we need. This can't be a 3, so we have a 3 here. That takes out the 5, makes this a 6. And puts a 7 right here and clears at the bottom cell here. And here's only 3 missing on this column 2. And that gets us a whole bunch of stuff in the cell. And this got to be a 4 because there's a 1, 8 above. 3 and 4. Let me know if you hear this crackling every now and then. It's quite painfully loud in my ears. And I've been having some issues with my microphone. I think it's getting old. Even though it doesn't feel that long ago, but it is. Alright. This thermo, right? Up here, that can't be a 1. Can't be a 2. Oh, wait, let's look at this one. Can't be a 1. Can't be a 2. 3, 4, 5. So it's got to be a 6, 7. Can't be an 8. Could be a 9. Can't be a 9, right? So 6, 7, 8. So this has to be an 8 or 9. Can't be a 9, so it must be an 8. And then this would be a... got to be a 7, right? That's all there is. And final digit on this last row is a 9. 9. I say it and I miss. That's a 1, 3 pair. It's resolved, and then it resolves a few more digits up here. And I think now it's really just filling in the gaps, right? 2, 4, 5. So that's a 2, that's a 5, and that's a 4. And now we just have 2 in each column here. So we're missing a 1 and a 7. So they are resolved by the 7 over here. This resolves our 1, 8 over here. The 2 has to go into this column, into this row. And then the 5 goes in here, and the 6 goes in here, and the 8 goes in here. And that is it. And I can probably do it a lot faster than that if I don't make so many mistakes. But it seems to have run pretty smoothly. Now, if I refresh, it gives us a blurred view of the unfogged board, I imagine. Yeah. Which is fine, I suppose, right? It reveals more than the fogged version, but probably not that much that it would spoil it. So I think I'm kind of happy with this. And I think that's what I call it today. I gotta definitely look into creating a nice little page for these puzzles. I need to figure out exactly how I'm going to do the layout, how I want to present them. This is something I've been thinking about for months and months and months, and I think it's really important that I get to the point where if somebody asks, hey, where can I play more of this puzzle? I can just send them a link and they can just play it. And if You know, I'd like to have a place where people can opt in to publish their puzzles. Say, hey, you know, if you want to show off, like I have for example, Sinclair's newsletter. If he's got 5 puzzles in there every week, if he wants to publish the first puzzle on a public space and then link back to his newsletter, you know, that's exactly the sort of thing I'd like to provide. And I think that makes a lot of sense for everybody involved. Anyway, thank you very much to the special edition of Can I Stream Through My Mobile Phone? Which I kind of did and also kind of didn't. Thank you very much for hanging out. I'm gonna hopefully hit the 500 soon. We were 3 off like an hour ago. We're still 3 off. I need 3 more subscribers. I would really appreciate you helping me over that little bump. And thanks to the 2 people who signed up to the Patreon in the last couple of days. That always keeps me going. That always motivates me. I'm putting a lot of work into this stuff every day, not just on Sundays when I stream. I'm working on this morning till evening, every single day. And I hope you all guys appreciate it. Thank you very much. Take care. Thanks for hanging out. This was Code Hangout number 79. Fog of War. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.